Hello, UCAR. Peter Christensen here, coming to you from the CEO's desk. I'm going to talk about acceptance of the REPSI, and in particular, the acceptance deadline and how that affects everything. Take a look at section 21 of the REPSI. Not a section you probably dwell on often. It's the time is of the essence clause. Now, this is a legal term that basically means these deadlines are strictly observed in this contract. So that means what happens if you are accepting or want to accept the offer after the deadline? Well, you're too late, right? That's what the time is of the essence clause means. And you can no longer accept it. So what can you do? Well, you can do several things. I mean, you could counter with the same terms. You could get them to send over a new offer with identical terms. However you want to. Those are probably the cleanest ways to do it. Some people will say, well, let's get an addendum, get the buyer to put an addendum extending that deadline. Well, you might as well just have them reissue the offer with a new deadline at that point. So a couple ways you can handle that. Now, let's talk about that deadline in contrast with a response deadline. What's the difference? Well, A, there is no response deadline. I was tricking you. So there is no response deadline. You can basically respond at any time. So the acceptance deadline does not affect your ability to counter and respond with a new addendum or a counter offer. There is no deadline for you to do that. So if it's expired, the acceptance deadline on the original offer, on an addendum after that, it does not matter. Same, you handle it the same way. If that's expired, but you were going to counter anyway, it makes no difference. You can still counter after the acceptance deadline. There is no such thing as a response deadline. So be aware of that. Make sure you get those acceptances in on time. Nothing worse than having that hanging over you that you accepted after the deadline, because technically that's not a valid acceptance of the offer or of an addendum. And so that could come back to haunt a client later on in the transaction. There will be questions of contract formation. Did they really form the contract when it was accepted? The terms were accepted after a given deadline. So take those seriously. Be aware of them. Remember, this is not legal advice. This is legal information only. If you want specific legal advice, contact your attorney. Thanks for tuning in. If you like these videos and you want more of them, which I know you do, right? Then go to our YouTube channel. We got a whole library of them. Give us a comment if there's a topic you'd love to see us cover. Thanks for tuning in.